Hi, this is Piero Giorgio, author of Survive the Economic Collapse. Today I'd like to review this excellent book by John Michael Greer, Twilight's Last Gleaming. Now, this is the best techno thriller that I've read in the last decade. It's up with the best of Tom Clancy and the Coons and the other techno thrillers. And actually, it's really a thriller, not so much techno. In fact, that is one of the strengths, is not going into these sometimes boring details about technology, but it tells a very interesting story set between 2023 and 2026 about a war between the United States and China over oil resources in East Africa and Tanzania. Now, the interesting part is that this is set up in a part of the world that I know very well for having worked in Tanzania and Kenya. Actually, the towns of Narok, Dar es Salaam, Dodoma, and all these places that are told in the book. I've been there a lot, so it was interesting to see. And I think he's right that one of the wars of the future, as are, of course, wars of the past 20 years, will be, as have been, over resources. So here, over oil resources, United States and China fight a very fast war, which has a lot of ramifications. So I cannot tell you more about the story because obviously I would spoil some of the plots and the twists of the story. One thing I would say is that for $16, you actually have two books for the price of one. First of all, because the story of the war is half of the book, and there's another story which is the ramification and the impact of that war over the world, but also especially over the United States. And I can tell you that John Michael Greer on this one has nailed it really well, because such a war with such an outcome could really mean a complete, profound change of the shape of things in the United States. And of course, it is part of the many ways that I think the global economic collapse that I write about and that John Michael Greer has also written about could happen. Actually, what's interesting is in my book, I had, at some point in one of the chapters, I have put 9 scenarios of how the economic collapse or the world collapse could happen. And one of the stories was a war between China and the United States over resources in East Africa and the Indian Ocean. So actually, it's interesting that that kind of scenario, great minds think alike. Anyway, John Michael Greer, of course, is an immense writer. He writes very well, and of course, his exercise writing this novel is just fantastic. The way he writes, the way he can bring the reader into the characters, into the story, is really, really amazing. So, very good book. I wrote it in just a day. I just couldn't stop. It's a real page turner. And it's really a very good book. So I encourage you. John Michael Greer is a very, very versatile writer. He writes about economy, about resources, about nature, about the environment, about and every time is surprising me that not only he's able to write a very convincing story, or in this case fiction, but also the style and it's very easy to read, especially for someone like me who's not English mother tongue. So Twilight's Last Gleaming, I really encourage you to read this book. I don't like to read, I don't have time to read a lot of fiction, but this one is really, really good. So get hold on this book. It's out. You can find it anywhere. And I think it's going to really open your mind of some of the things to come in the following years. Take care. Ciao.